Welcome to this episode of Leaders of Lasting Impact. I'm Jaime Jackson, your host today, and I'm here with Matthew Pohl, who is the founder and CEO of the ReWild Group. Matt has a passion for helping small businesses, and we wanted to talk to him today just to learn more about his background and the path that led to his founding the ReWild Group, a company that is on a mission to multiply the number of exceptional businesses globally. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks, Jamie, for having me.
Well, to start off, why don't you tell us about how you got your passion for small businesses? Have you always been an entrepreneur? Just tell us a little bit about where your career path began.
Yeah, well, I haven't always been an entrepreneur. I started off um, working in several large companies and organizations, the Federal Reserve Bank, Arthur Andersen, and then a large office products company. And so I spent kind of the first 10 years out of college, 10 to 12 years working for corporations. But I, when I think about entrepreneurship and where I got my bug, I kind of go back to growing up, and my mom and dad had their own business for all my grown up years, and so that's I think where it probably got started. My parents ended up losing their business when I was in high school, and that was pretty, well, it was quite traumatic for my dad, especially because it was primarily his business. My mom helped him, but he was a talented interior designer. And when he lost his business, he just lost a spark really for the rest of his life. And so that kind of impacted, my perspective on entrepreneurship and understood, that there were real risks there. Um, Interestingly enough, when I first got married, soon after we got married, I told my wife, Dawn, that I wanted to do three things. I wanted to get my master's degree. I was the first person in my family to get a degree, and I wanted to get that advanced degree. And then I also wanted to have four kids. I know I was a little bit crazy back then. And then I wanted to own my own business. So I was in my early 20s when I made that statement and knew that it wasn't going to be something that I could do right away, but was really building my career to the point that in my early 30s could launch my first business.
So tell us a little bit about what it was like to own your own business. So you had been planning on that from the beginning, it sounds like. So tell us what the actual experience was like, and was there anything you missed from your previous corporate jobs, or was it just immediately like, yes, this is what I should be doing?
Well, I can't say that getting into entrepreneurship, owning my own business was very smooth. I was transitioning out of my last corporate job and got kind of a contract work doing data warehousing, which is building big databases that accumulate data from a variety of corporate computer systems. And was kind of wrapping that up when September 11th happened. And obviously that was a big deal. Didn't really know what was going to go on there, but it was kind of at that point that my wife and I had been talking about starting a business based on the work that I did when I was with Arthur Andersen. And it was a business that she could be involved in as well. She had been a stay-home mom for a number of years and was ready to get back into the workforce. And so we decided to try to do something together. And so it was December, just months after 9/11 that we leased our first office space and launched our first business, and probably couldn't have been a worse time to start a business. So it was bumpy at first. We went almost 9 months without any projects, any clients. And so that was really hard to get up every day to try to build something that really, didn't kind of exist and kind of from the scratch. And so that was really challenging. The way I tell people is that working in a corporation and owning your own business, they both have stress. They both have things that are difficult. They're just different. And the main difference is that in a corporate environment, you have all these kind of safety nets around you. You have other specialists and skills and departments to support you. When you're a business owner, especially starting off, you don't have that. You have to be everything. And so while that's, I would say in some ways that's scary, it also creates this environment where you are forced to learn. And if you are willing to do that, you end up really learning a tremendous amount of things that you could never do or would never need to do when you're part of a corporation, because you tend to be more specialized in that environment. And so they both have stresses. Oddly enough, I can honestly say I never thought about going back to the corporate environment. It's just, there's just a difference there. The idea of waking up each morning and knowing that the market, the free market is going to decide the value, your value in that exchange of goods and services. And if you're going to be good enough for the market, say, I'll purchase something from you. There's a thrill there. And in the corporate environment, there just isn't that. You're almost always removed from really what the business is doing. And so you do your function, and that's important. But for me, that wasn't enough. I wouldn't say I'm a thrill seeker, but there is a there's just a I don't know, an energy. Maybe it's a thrill, but it's really this feeling alive of knowing that if you don't do it, it's not going to get done. And if you don't succeed, if you don't find a way to succeed, you're going to fail. And I don't like to fail. So that's really, I think, the thing that really moved me forward as an entrepreneur.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, so you had this business for a few years, and then at some point you decided to sell the business. So can you tell us more about that, about what were the events leading up to that, and what led to the decision to sell?
Yeah, I explained that our business had two really seasons. The first 12 years, kind of that season, and then the last 3 years, kind of the second season. And the first 12 years were kind of framed by this inability to get past a certain level of revenue. We would grow to 1 million, maybe 1.5 million, then we'd be back down to 800,000. And we just really couldn't consistently break that 1.5 million revenue. And, just tried the best I could to figure out the secret code to kind of unlock that. And part of my frustration is that we were doing great work. Our clients loved us, but we couldn't seem to bring in projects, or, it just seemed like I wasn't maybe focused on the right things. I just didn't have the right formula to really get past the ceiling that we kept on bumping. So we'd get 10, 12 employees, and then, in a big year, and then we'd go back to 6 or 8. And that's always hard, when you have to lay off people. That's really the worst thing to do as a business owner. You really feel like you failed them. And so that after we had done that a few times, I think we got a little bit more cautious as well. It was like, well, maybe we just stay here. And so it was around year 12 that we had a business broker. So somebody who helps business owners sell their businesses came to us and said, hey, would you mind if I did a valuation of your business? Because I think I might have somebody interested in it. I think it turned out to be a sales tactic, but it worked on us. And we said, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So he went through the process of putting together the valuation, the first valuation of our business. And to be transparent, we weren't really thinking about selling the business. We didn't even build the business so that we could sell the business. And that's not the best way to do it, but this was our first business, so we were learning. And the value he came back with was not insignificant, but it was not nearly what we would have hoped 12 years of lots of risk, lots of up and downs would have generated or would have accumulated from a value standpoint. But the reality is we weren't building the business to be sold, really focusing on transferable value to the next owner. And so it was at that point, Don and I had a decision to make. We would either say, okay, we've built a good business, and it was a good lifestyle business, right? It was a business that was paying for those 4 kids and, giving us a good home to live in by that time. Um, but the question is, were we going to be satisfied with that, or were we going to reach for more?
Mhm.
And we both said, well, we might be working another 10 years, 15 years. Why don't we adjust how we're working the business so that at some point, a decade from now, maybe it'd be worth something. Maybe we could sell it and, retire off of that. So that became our new mindset. And so with that as a goal, I set out to try to find some resources, asking other business owners for ideas and stuff like that. And I stumbled upon a book called Navigating the Growth Curve. And this book, it's kind of an interesting book. It's written more as a story as opposed to like a business educational book. And but from this book, I really saw some things that it's like, oh, okay, I could see where we were in our growth process. And it talks about that businesses go through these different stages of growth. And I could see how we were kind of stuck in that stage one. We'd gotten to stage two and then went back to stage one. And as I concluded the book, I realized that the author had set the story in Boulder, Colorado, which oddly enough was just up the road from our office. And it's like, well, that's kind of strange. Why would he pick Boulder? And so I looked up the author, and sure enough, he lived just not a few miles from where I did here in Colorado. And so I reached out to him, and I ended up spending about a year of coaching with him. And he really helped me unpack the book, because the book was informative, but not very instructional. And and essentially what we started to do was use this roadmap from his book and from his research to direct where our activity and energy was going. And so that really started that second season of our business. We had it valued at year 12. We started down this path in year 13, and things changed almost immediately. It was really really shocking, to be honest, to work so hard trying to figure out this problem. And I'm a good problem solver, and I couldn't figure it out. And yet, as soon as we started to follow this roadmap, things started to happen. And in those 3 years, we tripled in number of employees. We went from a stage one to on the cusp of stage four. We're over 30 employees, and our revenue tripled as well. Our profitability improved. The business was totally transformed. And whereas in year 12, to be frank, I was burnt out. 12 years for me, most of my other jobs I had had for like 5-6 years. So 12 years was a long time, and I was getting burnt out. It was just kind of the same thing. But yet by year 15, with a totally different organization and lots of people and talent and energy and momentum, I had fallen in love with my business again. And it was at that time that a competitor came and made an offer for our business. And as Don and I considered that, it was like, well, we could take it now. We could build for another 5 years. But the planets had kind of aligned, and it was a very attractive offer. And so we decided to sell. And that was a big, that's maybe a topic for another day, but selling a business is a very emotional thing, and you don't really necessarily anticipate that. But anyway, we sold the business and said, okay, we got the exit. It was just about 10, 15 years earlier than we thought we would get there when we started on that second season of the business.
As you were working through the methodology and with the coaching, was there anything about the stages of growth framework that surprised you along the way?
I'd say the thing that stuck out the most is just how accurate it is. It uses this concept that there are different stages, 7 stages, and that the stages are based on the number of employees in the business. And the research showed that it's the number of employees that drives the level of complexity in the organization. It's that complexity that really says, okay, here's the rules or the roadmap for how you need to be aligned in that stage. And then as you go from one stage to the next stage, based on the number of employees, the rules change. And if you can realign to that stage's rules, that you can continue to navigate growth fairly gracefully. And so when I looked at the book and read the book and kind of unpacked what was being presented, just how accurate it was, where I could see where we were in stage 1, where we went into stage 2. We couldn't sustain stage 2 because we hadn't followed the rules. And so we got pulled back into stage 1. And we just kept on oscillating between those 2 stages. But once I saw what stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 were, we could be proactive. It was like, okay, let's take care of business in stage 1. Okay, we're in stage 2. We adjust. And I could communicate that to the team, and the organization would rally around that about, okay, now we're stage 2. And then we'd go through this transition zone, a flood zone or something like that, and then tell the crew, hey, we're going to hit this flood zone. And it would feel like a flood zone. And then and they'd think I'm brilliant. And it's like, no, it's just in the book. And so the accuracy of it, the precision of it was shocking. I just didn't think it would be really that accurate, but because it was, it allowed me to kind of almost have faith in it, that I could kind of follow it and trust it. And we just kind of stuck through the roadmap, the guidelines, and things happened. So I think that was the most surprising. Its accuracy, and then how we were able to triple in 3 years when we had been static for a decade and not really miss a beat, because I didn't have to stumble into the next dark room and try to figure out where the furniture is. The methodology flips on the light and says, oh, here's stage 2 room. Here's where everything is. It's like, oh, okay, I can navigate this. And then I get to stage 3 and I have another room where the lights are turned on. So that's how it helped me.
That's a great analogy. So as you were kind of along those lines, as you're working through it and it's helping you and your company's growing, what were some of the challenges you experienced when you started implementing the stages of growth?
Yeah, well, I think in one way, we were fortunate because we were a stage 1 business when we got started down this path. And so we were small, and the folks that were there had been with us, and so they trusted us. So I didn't really get any pushback. It wasn't like we had 100 people and I had to convince a bunch of people, hey, we're going to do something different. So I think if the business had been larger, we could have had more pushback. But no, we didn't really. The team quickly got on board with this. And it wasn't like they had to understand everything. It was my job to kind of consume and really digest the methodology. And then for the team, it was like, okay, we're going to focus on profit. I'm a process person. And so I had put my energy as a stage 1 business owner in process, but that's not how you grow in stage 1. You have to focus on profit. And so it was a different mindset for me. And that's not the area I like as much, but the methodology said, hey, Matt, if you want to grow your business, you don't get to do what you like. You got to do what the organization needs. And so that's the kind of insights that really helped me. So it's like, okay, we're going to have to put more energy on generating revenue, profitable revenue. And so we came up with new ideas and new approaches, and we started winning more projects, bringing in more leads and converting those to revenue. and it just started to happen. And so I would say kind of on the opposite, the lack of challenges that we ran into was really surprising, that we could really navigate this growth. And we really didn't hit any major dead ends during those 3 years. Things just started to click, and it was really special.
You walked us through how you grew the business, how you raised the valuation of the business, and your decision that led to deciding to sell the business. So initially, you had thought you would retire after you sold your business. What changed your mind?
Yeah, well, we exited the business, and one point I didn't share about that story is that since we had that valuation at year 12, and then we had what we actually sold it for 3 years later, we could compare those two numbers, and what we sold it for was 10 times what the earlier valuation was. So it was really a magical run, and coming out of that, it was like, okay, we did it. High five, let's go have fun. And um, I'm it was interesting as we stayed at home for a few months, my Dawn and I did, and trying to figure out what came next. I I realized something that maybe I didn't quite understand about myself, and that is that I I enjoy being productive, of accomplishing things. That ability to check something off the list really is meaningful to me, and gives me pleasure. And so, there's only so many things you can do around the house. Even though we have a big house and a big yard, even that was not enough to keep me very busy for too long. So Dawn finally agreed. Okay, Matt, you got to go find something. And the reality is, we had this great story of what happened in our business, and I wanted more business owners to experience that. The business owners sacrifice so incredibly much. They put so much at risk, and it's just a small number of them that actually have this kind of success that we did. And what was neat about it is that it wasn't just me, right? It wasn't my story. It is my story, but the secret ingredient was a system, a process, a methodology that could be repeated. It wasn't just, genie in the bottle striking once kind of a thing. So I wanted to figure out a way to use these ideas to help more business owners. And over a period of a couple of years, I ended up acquiring all the research and intellectual property and all the ideas that the inventor had come up with from the Navigating the Growth Curve book, and additional decade of research. And so the whole goal here was to take this methodology, which was kind of inventor centric, only the inventor could really use it very well, and make it more generally applicable and available. And so that's what the ReWild group was formed to do, is to take this research and put it into a system that could help businesses become more exceptional. And with that, make the businesses less dependent on their owners, so that they have more freedom, more profitable, so they're financially rewarded, and increase the value of businesses if somebody wants to exit their business.
Well, that is an inspiring story, Matt. As we wrap up here, tell us, what do you want other business owners to know about the organizational rewilding methodology?
I would say, even before organizational rewilding, I would just say to business owners, it's probably been years, maybe decades, since you started down this path. And what I see from many business owners, that they've kind of hit this plateau, just like I did at year 12. And it's very easy to think this is as good as it gets. And the reality is once you're a business owner, it's very hard to become an employee again. And you usually have a lot of your time and energy and money invested in that business. So it's not like you can walk away from it. Many times you feel stuck in it. It's kind of this contradiction. I work for myself, but I have no freedom. And so I would just say to business owners, I want you to consider that things can actually get better, that this is not the end, but it may be the end of where your ideas can get the business. That's where I was. I was like, I had read, I'd gone to school, advanced degrees, all this stuff, but I couldn't kind of uncrack the safe to get to that special thing I need for my business. And I believe organizational rewilding was that for me. That's what got me past that ceiling on our organization. And I think it can help many businesses, but it starts with a business owner saying, okay, maybe I'm not done yet. Maybe there is something different I can try. And so I just encourage you. We've got a lot of resources, books on Amazon, a lot of free resources on our website. Take a look at some of that. Spend an hour, read one of our guidebooks. It takes about an hour. You'll see if it resonates with you, if it speaks to you, if you think like, oh, okay, maybe there's something here that could really help my business. Or you may just say, that's not for me. And maybe it's not a good fit. It's definitely not a good fit if you don't want to try something new. This is going to make you, it's going to require you to try some new things, not crazy things. In fact, one of the things I like about the methodology is it actually makes a lot of sense once you learn it. And anybody can learn it. You don't have to have an advanced degree. You don't have to have any degree. You just have to be willing to put in the effort, really. So that's what I would say. Things can get better. Organizational rewilding just might be that thing to break you through that barrier that you've struggled with for years, maybe even decades. And so it's definitely worth you looking at. It doesn't take that much time to do, doesn't take that much money to do. So you owe it to yourself with all the energy you've already put into your business. If it's not where you want it to be, organizational rewilding is worth you learning a bit about.
Well, thank you for sharing your story, Matt. I'm sure there are a lot of small business owners that are going to resonate with this. Why don't you just let us know the website where the best place people can start to go to find out more information and get some of those resources?
Yeah, so our main website, rewildgroup.com. So it's RE, so rewildgroup.com. Just go there. There is you'll probably be prompted to use an online calculator to determine your stage of growth. That's really the first step, is to understand which one of these 7 slots your organization fits into, because that's really the starting point to understand what your organization needs. So go to rewildgroup.com. You can also do calculator.rewildgroup.com. That'll take you right to the calculator page. There's lots of resources there. Look around, and there's a contact us. So if you have questions, need some assistance, our team is here to help you. We just want you to be more successful. We want you to reap the rewards of being an entrepreneur, of all the sacrifice of time and energy. You sacrificed your family at times. Reap some reward from that. You deserve that. But it may take you adjusting a few things to get where you'd really like to be.
Thank you, Matt.